cell growth and development. Red blood cells turn over pretty quickly. So one of the most common first symptoms is anemia. Now there's iron deficiency anemia and there's B12 deficiency anemia. They have some similarities and some differences. Usually you start to feel fatigued, you may bruise easily. There's tons of things that can lead to fatigue, but then a very simple standard blood chemistry profile can determine if you have that type of anemia.
Sure.
And if you do, B12 then is usually the first thing to check. And then over time, if it continues, you can actually start to develop neurological symptoms. And so you can get like shaking and lack of coordination, that type of thing. In fact, here's a couple of unfortunate case histories. We know someone who was a very much natural hygiene, fruit-based raw foodist. And after 20 years or so, we were actually involved in an event with them. And I noticed that, and this is one of these people that, you know, nature provides everything, you never need any supplements, you know, really just preaching their vision of the gospel there. And I noticed, and I was concerned about this person, they were really tired during the whole time, they were sleeping all the time, and they had a shake. We all took a group picture, and I put my hand on the person, and then I had seen it, but then I'm like, wow, there was just like a constant shake to the person. And, you know, going through scientific doctorate degree program, I'm like, you know, this is a neurological situation
Did you
here.
tell him?
Yes, I did.
And?
And they said, well, you know, them and some other people in the natural hygiene field, and I have a little bit of an issue with some of these natural hygienists, as you're hearing, they told me that sleeping is good for you. It's good to rest, your body restores its nerve energy and all that kind of stuff. And they said, you know, we have to laugh at you for that. And they also said, oh, hey, we're getting me on, catching me on film here. They also said that the individual said that they were cold and they were shivering, and that's why they were shaking. Now, unfortunately, and I actually said, listen, I'll give you a free test. The test cost us about $70 or so. So we did a methylmalonic acid test and found that their methylmalonic acid was extremely high. And they decided to not worry about it too much.
Huh.
And then what happened is a couple of years later, this person called me up and they said, you know what happens? I put my head down and I got this electric shooting pain down my arms. And I thought, oh boy, I remember an orthopedic test. It's called Lermite sign. And that's what it said. It's like you put your head down and the electric, you know, and we memorize all these things in school, but how often do you see it clinically? It's like, oh yeah, that's it. And Karen were you in school at the time or had just recently? Had just graduated, so all that stuff was more recent. I'm like, hey, isn't that some kind of test or something? And anyway, it's a test for multiple sclerosis, because in multiple sclerosis, it's thought to be an autoimmune disease where your body's immune system attacks a fatty acid layer around certain nerves called the myelin sheath, which insulates the nerves to help things conduct. And if that myelin sheath erodes away, you start to get strange neurological symptoms. Well, similarly, if you don't have enough vitamin B12 or folate and your nerve cells aren't regenerating properly like they're supposed to, that can cause similar type of neurological symptoms. So that scared the heck out of the person. They called me up and I said, wow, okay, so you're ready to do something now. They finally were. They finally took a B12 supplement, and I saw them a few months later, and their shaking had diminished substantially.
Wow.
And so that's good news. Now they say that if you let that go far enough, it can be irreversible. And apparently, from what we understand, though, at the early stages, it can totally reverse. But if you do let it go far enough, it may be partially, you know, not fully reversible.
Wow.
And here's another story of a similar mindset person who was a leader in their local raw food community for many years. Person very healthy, very fit, but thought the same thing about B12. And after about 10 years, they developed some neurological symptoms, had a tough time walking, was in bed, you know, various things. And happen to know through the reliable raw food grapevine, not just the, you know, someone, but someone who was with the person at the time, I mean, actually, my ex-girlfriend and this guy's ex-girlfriend have been best friends for many years, so I really got the pretty direct story. Knew that this person had been to a practitioner who tested them and found that they were low in B12, and eventually took a B12 supplement and recovered, although still has a little bit of a limp when they walk, although this person is now going around telling people that they had multiple sclerosis and recovered from it with natural hygiene. But they had been a natural hygienist for 10 years to begin with. So I think, well, how in the world did you develop that? And now, and again, the B12 deficiency and multiple sclerosis symptoms can mimic each other very much. And we just hate that to happen to anybody. We'd all love to think that, you know, there's one system that's just perfect. But, you know, we live in the real world, and with the raw food vegan diet, there are just such a multitude of enormous benefits that, hey, we just need to tell the truth, and it speaks for itself. There are a few things that we have to watch out for.